Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this second day of the Women International Forum from here, the World Trade Center Auditorium. It is an honor hosting you here again in this space dedicated to exploring the intersection of mental health, but neuroscience and aging too. These areas where WeMind leads as the only cluster in the world integrating these three vital fields. As we said yesterday, our mission is just creating the best possible biopsychosocial environment for individuals through public-private collaboration and innovation. And we aim to enhance personal autonomy, improve lives, and drive business competitiveness in mental health, but also neuro-wellness and longevity. Thank you again to Diputació de Barcelona and Generalitat de Catalunya through Acció, and of course our valued gold and silver partners and the exhibitors whose support has made this forum possible. The event, as you saw yesterday, is structured across 6 thematic verticals. Yesterday we explored 4 of them through insightful keynotes and dynamic panel discussions. What we saw yesterday was societal challenges, care and assistance, digital transformation, and new housing models. I hope you found the sessions very interesting, engaging, and you gained new perspectives. And of course, I hope you had time and the opportunity to connect with fellow attendees during the networking moments. Remember that the best way to stay tuned during this forum is by downloading the WeMind Forum app, available for up-to-date schedules, as we have 3 different areas with different keynotes and panel sessions, but also for networking opportunity and to booking some meetings with the exhibitors we have just outside this building. Let's start with the first vertical today, exploring societal challenges. And the first keynote is about exploring foundational role of brain and natural capital in creating a well-being economy. Let me please join welcoming Dr. Rym Ayadi, founder and president of EMEA. Rym, whenever you want, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, first of all, to Marta WeMind for inviting me to this forum. I think this forum is it's a great opportunity to connect brain health, aging, neuroscience, and economics. And at the same time, I would like to say that with the Euro-Mediterranean Economists Association that I'm heading, together with the Brain Capital Alliance, and currently we have launched the Brain Economy Hub, together with colleagues from different parts of the world, trying really to put brain in the center of economic construction and trying also to move our model, economic models, into what I call knowledge-based economy, but also putting at the center the health and mental health of people, given the societal challenges that we are living in today. So this is a transformative vision which allows us to really look forward for moving our traditional economic model, which is based on financial growth and financial returns, short-term, into a model which really favors the people, the planet, and also the symbiotic relationship between them. So this is also something that we can do as economists. I'm an economist by training and finance professor. And also, as finance, we can do it, but then we still need to have a view on how we can create returns, make our projects viable, but at the same time trying really to ensure that we are respecting the environmental constraints, but also our health constraints, and be aware that whatever we do for industrializing, it's not only for our health, but also it's to enhance our financial health. But then those two can go hand in hand without really burning the resources, the health resources and the planetary resources that we have. I mentioned this in the WHO together with the International Biodiversity Organization in the COP29, that we need to move from this toxic relationship that we have with our planet into a healthy relationship. In fact, we had this healthy relationship in the past, but then we moved into creating value, financial value, into a post-industrialization era, and then this has really sidelined us from having this symbiotic relationship that we have with the nature. So in reality, nowadays, we are facing a polycrisis. We are facing really serious problems in terms of mental health, in terms of environmental degradation, in terms of biodiversity loss, and also, which is important, economic inequality. So we have created value, but the value has been, I would say, concentrated into the hand of a few. And there is not only inequality in terms of revenue, but also in terms of health access, in terms of knowledge access, and in terms of infrastructure access. And this is something that we have to correct. We've seen, for example, in all the discussions in the international fora, there is this loss and damages debate between the poor and the rich. But this is not enough because we need to really have an endogenous approach to ensure that our wealth creation is not only favoring a few. And then, of course, this means that we need to go beyond GDP, gross domestic product, as a matrix to assess our economic growth. So clearly we need to transit from extractive systems. But I don't only think about extractive systems in terms of natural resources, but also in terms of our health resources. So we are really overall moving into I would say we are living into an environment where only extract from the nature and from our health. And this is not fair, this is not just, and we need to move into a just and fair approach for regeneration. So this is why we've been working with colleagues within many projects at the Euro-Mediterranean Economists Association and our partners globally on the regenerative principles. So we need a regenerative well-being economy. And what I mean by this? First of all, we need to accept and acknowledge the regenerative well-being, the traditional economic models, that they have reached their limitations. How do we know this? GDP has grown globally on average over the last decades, more or less 3% annually over many countries on average on the globally. But then this growth has been accompanied with three alarming trends. One of those is the mental health disorders that now affect more than 970 million people worldwide. And this is not counting the impact of the COVID-19, and it has not yet been estimated. And I think this has been a huge impact on the world population. So the second trend is humanity is using much, much more resources than the available resources that the Earth has for us. And this, in fact, is pushing our ecosystem to deplete, and also our biodiversity to not to be there for us. Plus, of course, the climate change that is really moving all this ecosystem depletion even faster, while our economic activities as humans is not changing. It's the same. We are still moving into extraction, fossil fuel, and this is not only increasing the pollution, but also is accelerating the impacts of the climate change. And finally, as I mentioned, the income inequality. Our global wealth is practically concentrated in 10%, owning the 76% of global wealth, according to latest report of Credit Suisse. For Credit Suisse to write a report speaking about inequality, there is certainly something wrong. So the well-being economy is an economic framework that prioritizes health, that prioritizes our sustainability, not only our sustainability as humans, but also as our planet, and also the resilience of people. So how people can withstand external shocks. And this is so important for the next years to come. We need to have the capacity, the mental capacity, the physical capacity to withstand shocks. What are those shocks? That are external shocks, that it's not out of our control, but then we need to withstand them for our survival. And this is all about beyond financial return. This is not anymore funds or money can make it. It doesn't make it anymore. When there is a clear, we've seen it in many cases, clear crisis, sometimes the countries and the governments are not able to really finance those impacts. Like, for example, what happened in the US with the hurricanes, in the developing countries also. They don't have the deep pockets to finance all this destruction that is happening. So really our vision is anchored into regenerative principles, which, as I said, go even beyond sustainability. We need to, in fact, even have a view about sustainability, which is, in fact, going into innovation and regeneration. So the three principles of the regenerative well-being economy is, first of all, the restoration. We need to restore our ecosystems and also social systems. These are so important, and every individual and every government has to think about restoration. So we go, first of all, to restore, and second, to be resilient, really develop the pillars for a resilient system which allow us, in fact, to build and adapt and thrive in face of crisis, because those crises will be recurrent, will be more frequent, and they are not insured anymore. And I can tell you that insurance costs nowadays, it's increasing, and not everybody can cover those. And third is the circularity. We have been talking about circularity, it's reuse, and then really reducing waste as much as possible. But this is not enough. Circularity, it's really to minimize the harm that we have done in our production system, but this is not enough. Our ecosystem have to be restored, and also we need to develop the resilience pillars over time. And this is not only for our, I would say, nature capital, but also it's for our brain capital and health as people. So what I want to talk about today is really this interaction. So as economists, we need to develop concepts to be able to anchor our economic systems, this regenerative well-being economy. And then the two aspects that we are working on so for years now is the nature capital and the brain capital, both of which are essential for our regenerative societal and ecological health. So the first one is nature capital, you see it here, which encompasses the ecosystem and biodiversity that sustains all of us, all life. So we need clean water and we need clean air, oxygen to live. So if we don't have this, there is no life in this planet. So a regenerative economy seeks not only to stop environmental damages, but also restores ecosystem and drive really all of this into a concept that we can help as humans, which are science and innovation. Science and innovation, it means that we need to use all the work that we have done in different disciplines in a philosophy of and multidisciplinarity to be able to solve our economic challenges. Now, of course, the stakes are very high, as I mentioned before, and we need to move into a much more innovative and much more regenerative framework that I mentioned. And this is our regenerative framework, which is in reality a net positive business for everybody. It's a win-win situation for everybody, and then it really pushes us to invest much more into the nature-based solutions. And those nature-based solutions, for example, are reforestation, wetland, restoration, and all regenerative agriculture, agroforestry, for example, and then trying really to sequester carbon. We have nowadays a carbon market, which allows us, in fact, to value the carbon sequestration capabilities, but also to enhance biodiversity. Our actions as economic actors, for example, need to enhance as much as possible the biodiversity to improve the local communities. So it means that any action has to have an inclusive communal approach, every action. It means that to reduce these inequalities between the rich and the poor, and this, for example, can be easily valued from an economic perspective, because we've seen that for $1 or €1 invested in these solutions, we can have $9 of economic benefits. So there is benefit. So it's not like there is no benefit, but the benefits will have to be shared between everybody. At the same time, we could eventually try to restore our planet. And then, of course, the circular economy, as I mentioned, and finally, the living economy. So what do I mean by living economies is adopting other frameworks. We are ready to adopt other frameworks which are based on the gross ecosystem product, not anymore the GDP, the gross domestic product. Of course, we can keep the gross domestic product. We don't eliminate it. It's another matrix, but we need to enter with a new gross economic ecosystem product, which will allow us to, in fact, measure the value of ecosystems in human well-being. And this is so essential now that we need to think about it as economists, as finance professors, and so, people, and so on. So my second capital on which we've been working on, and this is the innovation, is the regenerating the human potential via the brain capital. So what is this brain capital? So brain capital was initiated by a collaboration between economics and neuroscientists over the past 4 years. And we have come up with a definition, which is, in fact, brain health and brain skills. And it refers practically to the cognitive and emotional and social capabilities of people. So not only the educative capabilities of people, the cognitive capabilities of people to go to the labor market. And this is what economists we've been doing for years. We have defined human capital. And human capital is not enough anymore because it does not take into account the healthy brains. So in reality, brain health has always been seen as the absence of disorders. But then you could see, for example, now the estimation is we have almost 1 billion of people having disorders. So these are practically a big chunk of our population. And we do not even know the data. So in reality, every person practically might be having some certain disorders that are not diagnosed. And this is something we have to be aware of. In reality, what we try to do here is to see that, okay, we could solve mental disorders via a certain budget, but only 2% of global health budgets are allocated to mental health. It's very little. So the needs are huge, and then the money is not there. And especially nowadays that there has been some reallocation of budgets worldwide for dealing with conflicts, with wars, and this is really taken away from our health and from our education. So, I made a reflection, in fact, that we need to move beyond these concepts from an economic standpoint and really favor our brain. Our brain is an investment from the day we are born, and we need to not only invest in it to have a return on education, but a return on our brain capabilities over time. This is not only about the job market, this is not only about what we have to do in terms of our skills in that specific jobs, but then it's our well-being as a whole. Work, it's part of our well-being. It's not something that is completely separated from it. So we've seen, for example, here we have some data on the brain health that we've been collecting over the years in all the countries, as you can see. And you can see, for example, just Alzheimer's disease is going up, and this is not even data that is available for all countries. Now, brain skills are so many, and then for developing a brain capital and brain economy, we need to invest much more on our brain skills. And this is something so important in the face of the rise of automation and artificial intelligence, because if we don't develop this, we will be in a way taken over, all driven by algorithms that may not be serving our interest, societal interest and planetary interest. So we need to have brain-based skills like self-control, emotional intelligence, creativity, analytical thinking, cognitive flexibility that must be highly valued and taught from day one. But this cannot be coming from the economic and educative community only, but also from the neuroscience community. So they're telling me to move fast. So these are the drivers. I'm going to skip this part, which I wanted to talk to you, which is aging population. But overall, we are moving into an aging population. And then, of course, this means longevity. This means that the probability of cognitive decline will go up. So we need to prepare for this crisis as soon as possible and take this also as an opportunity to develop certain solutions that will allow us, in fact, to deal with the dependency risk. The dependency risk nowadays, we cannot deal with it because there is no enough care economy. And then we cannot leave this to happen. And then we say, well, who is going to finance it? Who is going to do it? And then there is a big problem. So we need to revert this trend as much as possible and try to find the opportunities. So we can harness, in reality, the brain capital for longevity, and there are very many ways to do it in terms, for example, of in healthcare policy, in, for example, developing neurotechnologies that will allow us, in fact, to connect with this. Now, the connection between brain capital and nature capital is huge, and we can certainly mainstream it in our economic policies. In fact, we can find this intersection very fast. It's not difficult at all in terms of economic principles and economic theories. And in reality, we can think, for example, of cognitive restoration through nature. So these are the co-benefit between the two. Clearly, there are studies showing that time in green spaces and connection with nature will decrease the depression by 30%. There are, for example, connecting to regenerative communities, urban design, for example, these 15-minute cities where you can move, you can interconnect, can boost mental health and reduce environmental footprints. There are also the innovation ecosystems that we can regenerate through, for example, brain-driven innovations, like, for example, biomimicry of technologies that are inspired by the nature. So there are so many things that we can do, and we need to do it to allow us really to move into what I call a virtuous circle. So if we align those regenerative principles together, healthy minds innovate sustainable solutions, while thriving ecosystem nurture mental and physical well-being. So really this virtuous, I would say, cycle will be very important over time. And finally, to be able to build all of this, we need data. The data is there. It's not that we don't have it. We have a lot of data. We have the brain capital dashboard. We have the TRIS dashboard also. This all gives you the data, so we know the knowledge is there, is available. The TRIS dashboard, it's the anchor points of the regenerative well-being economy, which is transparency, responsibility, inclusion, and sustainability. This is so essential to, in a way, change our perception of our traditional economic model to allow us to move into this transformative approach. Obviously, we need different type of indicators. The indicators we have nowadays, they are not enough. We need to design new indicators and collect data based on a completely different concept, which is quality of life concept that go beyond the financial value, beyond the economic value added that we have been adopting for many years. So brain capital indicator, nature capital indicator, and regenerative matrix. So these are all available. We can think, for example, of green spaces accessibility indexes, mental health adjusted ecosystem services value, which, for example, quantifies the contribution of ecosystem to mental health and emotional well-being overall. So these are all data that we don't have, but these are indicators that we can construct and start slowly connecting into the economic sectors that we have. So with this, they are telling me I don't have time anymore, but this I'm done with my presentation. So our call for action is very clear, and with Marta, we have drafted certain recommendations on how to move and how to anchor our brain and our nature into our economic models. So, of course, my speech will be also published, so whoever would like to see it, and all the data is available. So thank you very much for your attention.